What's up, guys? It's your boy Zowoki back with another of the Chris Watts videos. But today we're gonna make a video that a person kind of made me think that we should make this kind of video, and that was if Nichol Kessinger, when she Googled her items, what actually came up when she Googled her getting wanting wedding dresses. She's wanting to know what a marrying mistress would be. Man says that he's leaving his wife to be married and all that stuff. So that's what we want to look at. And what we also want to look at is more exposure with Nichol Kessinger. So with that being said, let's get into it. But before we go any further, make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel by hitting that wiper icon down the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it so I do post videos like this one. You guys will get that little ring notification that Zowoki myself has posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, thank you so very much for the love and support. Now, when we Google things, I want to bring this up and show you the ones that we want to want to know the most here is, where did it go? It is, man, I'm having an affair, says he will leave his wife. So if we go to Google, I'll show you guys right here. Paste. What does it say? So if we bring this up a little bit, there are many reasons why a married man might say this or say he will leave his wife, but not actually doing so. For example, divorce can be expensive and painful, and he might have other compelling reasons to stay. He might also be using the affair to avoid difficult conversations or to seek validation outside of his marriage. If he was going to leave his wife, it might have happened sooner in the relationship. If you're in an affair with a married man, you can try to pay attention to his actions instead of his words. You can also consider seeking support from friends, therapists, and spiritual leaders. She had that. She didn't have this. She had this, and so forth like that. So this is what would have happened if she had Googled this. Why he leave his wife? He will leave his wife. How serious is your affair? Partner about you. So it pretty much tells you that, I don't see where it says that, like, don't do it. Do you feel stuck you're in your affair? Are you yearning for change but spinning your wheels? You're not alone. Many mistresses often feel stuck in the affair they're in, and even though you need to change some things, or sometimes, you don't even recognize what kind of change you need and don't know how to create that change. Do you stay stuck in a kind of affair limbo, just hoping that the solution will magically come along and fix everything? So it's pretty much telling her, like, don't do it kind of thing, but in a different version of what they want. So if we go to the next question, which will back up, and it was, now the next one we're going to do is marrying your mistress. This was another thing that she had Googled. So can you successfully marry your mistress? Successfully would be called divorce, I do believe. I married mine. We're in love and each other. My first wife had no clue what I was having an affair until I broke the news to her. My reason for doing so was uncomplicated. I wanted to be with my mistress. Fast forward 12 years, what have I learned? The mistress is no longer thrills and excitement has dwindled over time. Do we still love each other? I don't know anymore. The magic word we call love has become elusive and hard to nail down now that we are talking of divorce. So what went wrong? I realized the routine is inevitable in a long-term relationship. From my observation, it was progressively and effectively eroding the essence of lust from our marriage bed. Where once we couldn't get enough of each other, we now find ourselves taking the other for granted, and the thrill and the excitement has long gone. The same issue that I have grappled in my first marriage soon began to rear their ugly heads in the current marriage. I realize the problem is me. I am selfish, self-absorbed, lustful, deceitful, conceited, and the list goes on. After the experience of my other failed marriage, I realized that other affairs will not change the person what I am, because a new mistress will only serve to boost my ego and cause me to ignore my shortcomings, at least while the affair continues. It will simply paint over the cracks. What do I say? What or say that? Because from experience, I found that my current wife, while she's with my mistress, generally did not challenge me on my character flaw because she hardly saw them. During the affair, it was hard to conceal the real me because we were not living together. Only when she became part of the future or furniture that she began to clearly see the flaws that I had existed in my character. But unlikely the role of my mistress is she one played, my current wife has now more inclined to confront my inequities and shortcomings. Why? Because now she has more to contend than when she had me on short periods. Now, you guys could keep reading this, and at the bottom, I could see it down here. It says, don't do it. The cost for such endeavors far outweighs the thrill that it brings me. It isn't worth it in the end. So these are the things that she's Googling and so forth. And if she did, let's see, Amber Fry. Amber, like she Googled. Amber Fry. Frey? Yeah, Frey. So she would get this. You guys can see what she... Now, if she looked at net worth, because she had that book. Amber Fry is an American author who has a net worth of $400,000. This is one thing that she Googled. And then she looked at Amber Fry's book. So these are things that she Googled. I'm not going to Google butt stuff like she did. But when you type in Chris Watts, this is what you see. But before, it didn't have these orange jumpsuit versions that you guys can see right here. It would have been ones like this, or this, or this. Like, these are the ones that she would have seen on her Facebook and so forth, and the baby Nico on the way and so forth. So, and another one that she did was can cops trace text messages? This is what she would have done. Yes, police can trace text messages through a variety of different methods, including the service provider, legal process, other methods. Law enforcement can obtain your call and text records from your service provider, revealing who you have communicated with and when. This data can be used to establish connections between individuals, track the flow of information, and build a case against the subject. Now, another one is, can cops retrieve deleted text messages? Yes, law enforcement can sometimes is the key word right here. Sometimes retrieve deleted text messages using investigative methods, such as hiring a forensic investigator to inspect the phone. This is possible because when you delete a message, the data files are on the SIM card that remain intact, and the phone is simply told to look at files differently. However, deleted messages are generally considered lost unless they are recovered quickly and before they have physically changed. For example, on an iPhone or iPad, which is what kind of phone she had, was an iPhone, you can only recover messages deleted within the last 30 to 40 days. And you can't recover messages deleted before the iOS 16, which she would have a different one back then. Again, these are things that she had Googled. I mean, the other one is wedding dresses. Like, this is what she would have looked at, that you only look at when you are seriously into somebody. How many times do we have to go through this, that this is all the things that she had Googled have, like, significantly shown that she was highly into Chris Watts. So another video that I wanted to put on here was the unmasking of Nichol Kessinger. A lot of you guys have been asking about me to do this one. It's from the YouTube channel Unmasked True Crime. So let's dive in and see what they have to say about Miss Nichol Kessinger as well.
Hey guys, we're going to start our review of NK's interviews. And we know these came out quite a bit ago, but what we're going to do, like we said in the videos, is take kind of a fresh look at it with what we know now, what he's said in the subsequent interviews and in the book. Really quick before we start, there used to be a page called We the People versus NK. And we were not the creators of that page. The two creators of this channel, however, along with two other women, Megan and Tatum, that we're friends with, we did help admin the page. And without getting into the whole backstory, because it really doesn't pertain to this, the creator has gone her own way and shut down the page. The other admins, the four of us, we still are friends and we still run groups together. The only reason I bring this up is because the following is based on our own research and our own content. NK's first interview takes place in a park in Arvada.
Which I think is wrong.
And dad are with her. It's on Wednesday, August 15th, 2018, at the same time that Chris is being questioned at Frederick PD by CBI and FBI, and while they're flying a drone over Survey 319. The audio is absolutely terrible in this interview, so there's really no point in playing it for you. NK rambles quite a bit through these interviews, so in the interest of organization, we're going to go over her interviews by topic. It's also important to remember while you're listening to this that this is the very first interview. This is before anyone knows the fate of Shanann, Bella, Cece, and Nico.
At least a year before.
She starts out by telling agents that she met Chris in the beginning of June or maybe before that. And I do use the correct words here. She doesn't say the relationship started. She said when she met Chris. In the beginning, both NK and Chris have this date of June 1st. However, when agents go up to talk to him in Wisconsin, he does tell them that the reason he didn't seem that excited in the pregnancy announcement video of May 29th is that he felt guilty that he was already talking to a woman at work. In addition to that, coworker Anthony Brown says in his interview that he saw them having what seemed like a very close conversation in a hallway about 5 months prior to the murders, which would have been around March. We know that Shanann and Chris took a trip to San Diego from June 22nd until June 26th, and the next day when she got back, on June 27th, is when she left for North Carolina. As you can see, these texts are dated June 27th, the day that she left, and June 29th. And if you can see by the content, it looks like things are already pretty hot and heavy. In addition to that, you have this super sappy birthday card that Chris gave Nichol, dated July 3rd. Why does this matter? I think it's very important when they met, when they started talking, and when they started this relationship, especially in light of her Google searches, which we will touch on in a little bit. I do think it's interesting that in all these interviews, they don't ask her when her contract started with Anadarko. I do know
Oh,
from someone who works there that the contracts usually go in 6, 12, or 18-month stints, but I don't know which one that she had.
hmm.
She tells them that they weren't intimate until the last week of June, she believes, and then she stops to giggle inappropriately about some mosquito that's bothering one of the agents. So now if you take everything into account that you have from the coworker Anthony Brown and then both of their mouths, you've got anywhere from March to July when the relationship starts. And that brings us to the Google searches, because even though these aren't in the interviews, these are still really important and they've been a really hot topic as far as this relationship goes. So in the discovery, it has that NK Googled Chris on August 3rd, 2017, Shanann in September of 2017, and then Shanann again in January of 2018. So let's take a look at what she would have seen when she Googled them on those days. The first deleted search that's referenced in Discovery is a deleted search of Chris from August 3rd, 2017. All of the following are public posts that NK would have seen when she looked up Chris
Exactly.
that day. As you know, a
There's
lot
no
of
doubt
the
about
posts
it.
are public, and she also tags Chris in a lot of them. They all reference the girls, she and Chris, and what she does for a living. I mention that because during this interview, agents specifically ask NK what she knows about Shanann and what she does for a living. As usual, NK steps back from that question and acts very confused, says she's not really sure what she does for a living or
She
how she
knew.
describe it. And finally, it's very passive aggressive how she describes it. She finally kind of concedes to say that she might call her a sales rep, but she's not really sure. So again, if you look at the length of time she's been researching them and then what information was available to her, it's just more deception that's clear when she should be focused on a pregnant mom and 2 children that are missing. The next search that's deleted in there is when she searched Shanannwatts on September 1st, 2017. So I went back to see if there was anything significant that happened around that time or if it was just a random search. So it turns out that when Shanann had her neck surgery was on August 29th of 2017. And she had more posts than usual at that time. And if you remember in the book, we talked about it in one of the videos, I can't remember which one, Kato makes a comment that when she's talking to Chris, they talk about the fact that NK has researched this family online for a while. So here are the posts from August 29th, 30th, 31st, and September 1st when NK would have done her search. These were all public and ones that NK would have seen when she looked her up. There's even one dated August 30th of 2017 where Chris is posting for Shanann on her wall, giving everyone an update on how the surgery went and saying that she's in pain but still trying to help people. August 29th, when Shanann had her surgery, was a Monday, so it's likely that Chris took at least maybe Monday and Tuesday off or Tuesday and Wednesday off of work. So it just seems like another coincidence of her looking her up when maybe Chris had the day off of work or there was talk of Shanann having surgery, and another coincidence where NK is involved. The letters from Christopher Arthur Cadle also said in the book that Shanann had everything a mistress would be jealous of, and I agree with her here.
I agree as well.
If you look at these posts right around her surgery on August,
Nice house, a family. I don't think Nichol Kessinger really wanted the family part. She had a man, she had great car, wedding ring, whatever have you. So
29th, also the time when Nicole was researching her, it does look like the perfect life. She has a loving husband that's doting on her surgery. She's got these beautiful girls that she's missing. And she also has all of these amazing friends that are visiting her and sending her things in the hospital. And it's a very happy and love-filled time in her life. So obviously I'm going to have a lot of people that disagree with us on this, and that's fine.
oh, I agree.
But yet again, too much of a coincidence for us that right when she's in the hospital, like I said, and Chris is probably missing work, that she just happens to be researching Shanann. I don't buy into all of these tiny coincidences. Each one maybe could be explained on its own merits, but when you put this whole thing together like pieces of a puzzle, it's just too much to be
Agreed.
one big coincidence. So what are we saying here? I'm saying that I think that the speed of the relationship and things that she's saying about the relationship don't add up to the timeline. If she did start at Anadarko back in August and just had a crush on him, if it was something simple like that, then I can maybe see. But that also tells you that she's been researching him and we don't know when the relationship started. Maybe she researched the crap out of him for 7 months and then adopted his likes or his hobbies.
That's
Who
crazy.
knows? There was a rumor going around that prior to Anadarko, NK worked for Advocare in some type of capacity. And Advocare is a direct competitor of Lavelle, from what I understand. I have no idea if there's any validity to this, but it would
That
be
would be
interesting to
weird.
know. Reason being is that during the interview, NK acts as if she has no idea what Lavelle is or how she would describe what Shanann does.
Did she Google
She finally
Thrive?
does concede to the fact that she would describe Shanann as being in sales. And as far as those June 12th emails go, I always felt like those were contrived. They just don't seem natural to me. The wording, the way they're talking, it just seems contrived to me.
These were made to look like they were met at this time rather than when they met at actual time. This shortens their time to throw off the investigators and so forth.
A lot of other people say that too, but they're not stupid, and they knew at some point that the company emails would be looked at. And NK herself says that at one point they switched over from using all company emails and phone to their personal phones. So for those of you who believe those dates, I'd like to hear from you in the comments and know what your thoughts are on this. Because if you look at this and they really started becoming intimate in the beginning of July, then that means that after 2 weeks, actually after 1 week, because July 4th was the first time that she had her first meltdown and he left and she showed up at his house and didn't want to leave him alone in his house and was becoming, it looks like, very possessive. That would have been about 4 days into the relationship, which, remember, she even says she went out of town around that time with a friend. So maybe they've hooked up a handful of times. That seems very odd.
Exactly.
So then in believing those dates were also...
and then just give up all of that for how many years you were with Shanann just to be with NK for 2 months? Okay.
I believe that within 14 days, she's told him that she wants to have his firstborn son, and that's enough for him to start actively planning the murders of his entire family and planning to off his pregnant wife of 8 years over a 14-day intimate relationship.
Oh yeah, NK knew. NK knew.
She then tells the agent that she just found out that Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant through the media and that she had no idea. And again, of course, these are Chris's words, but she's also proved to lie as well. So, I mean, you've basically got two liars with their different versions of this story. But during the second interview with investigators, when he's in Wisconsin in prison, he does slip up at one point and say that NK found out that Shanann was pregnant. I personally find it hard to believe that she wouldn't know she's pregnant. If we know that she Googled her and looked her up before they were in a serious relationship, I mean, most of us know that most women would look her up after they were in a serious relationship. And with all of Shanann's public posts, as has been discussed so many times, I find it extremely hard to believe that she didn't know exactly what they were doing, where they were going, and that Shanann was pregnant. Mm-hmm. I absolutely believe that she knew. All of the following posts I'm showing are set to public, and they're posts that Shanann posted after both Chris and Nichol acknowledged that they were talking and or in a physical relationship. So let us know in the comments, please. What do you guys think? Do you think that the same girl who Googles condom expiration dates and knows that Chris has a 401k and knows every macro he puts into his mouth, do you really think that she did not know that they were expecting? Mm-hmm. After they're done asking her about the pregnancy, they ask her if they think there's anything else Chris may have lied to her about, and she says she'd rather not look back and second guess things.
Yeah, okay.
And then she asks the agent if she can have her name kept out of the media, to which he's kind of dismissive of and says, yeah, he doesn't know how that's going to go. She tells the agent that the last time she saw Chris was Saturday, August 11th, and that they went out to dinner. She mentions they first tried to go to a different restaurant, which was a different Lazy Dog, and that she didn't like the menu. And that's a little odd considering she mentions later that her dad and she go to this lazy dog, so you would think she would know what the menu is, and that they end up going to a different one. And then afterwards, Chris comes by her house for about 15 minutes and then says he has to go. She tells the agent this is one of the only times they've been out in public together, which we know is also false.
There's no way.
He asks her what they talked about on that last date, and keep in mind it was only 4 days before they're talking to her, and she's obviously very uncomfortable with the question and kind of stutters around. And he asks if they talked about his relationship with his wife, and she says they did not, and they may have talked about trying to set up a time to look at apartments the next week. Then the agent asks her, well, when's the last time you talked to him? And she cuts him off and says, oh, I talk to him all the time. In fact, I haven't talked to him since yesterday when I asked him not to call me, but if I texted him right now, he would respond in 5 minutes. She mentions the 111-minute phone call, but she doesn't say anything besides
I don't remember.
She talked to him on Sunday night, and he seemed fine, and she didn't have any issues with him. In this first interview, she also tells agents that she talked to him Monday night, and kind of contradicts herself here and says he didn't seem too upset, but then she also says that she could hear the fear in his voice for his children. They then bring her to Monday, and she says they exchanged a few texts while they were at work, and that she was going to see a friend, Jim, as we know, but that she doesn't mention his name and says he had nothing to do with anything, and then mentions that Chris texted her at some time in the day saying that his wife and children weren't home. They ask her what time that text was, and then she stalls and goes off on this tangent, kind of deflecting, saying that she's really upset with him and that she's very disappointed in him. Obviously, as we know now, because she doesn't know the time of the text because she's deleted all the information on the 14th. So this seems like a good time to insert some information that we found back in April.
Nothing.
Our group was doing kind of an in-depth review of NK's phone logs. And we noticed that there's some calls that night on Monday through the 13th, they go into the morning of the 14th, that overlap with Officer Goodman's calls. So on Monday night, actually it's now Tuesday, August 14th, early in the morning, Nichol and Chris have been talking back and forth. Officer Goodman is assigned to call and get more information from Chris, like their height and weight, any scars or anything like that about Shanann and the girls. So at 1:58 a.m., Officer Goodman is trying to call chriswatts on his cell phone, on his personal cell. Because you remember Chris has his personal cell and he has his work cell. So he tries to call him, and you can hear it on the video that's in Discovery when he's trying to call. It sounds like someone's answering, but then it's silent, and then it just hangs up. And it does this repeatedly.
Tried to do a three-way call.
So right around 2:05 a.m., Officer Goodman gets a return call from Chris from his work cell. And Chris tells Officer Goodman that he's having problems with his personal cell, even though he's been on it talking to Nichol throughout the entire night with no problem seemingly. And that so he's calling him from his work cell. So Officer Goodman proceeds to ask him the questions about their height and weight and the identifying marks, and they have an approximately 4 to 5 minute conversation. And if you look at the cell phone bills, Chris makes a call to NK and she does not answer it, but then she calls him back on his personal cell at 2:07 a.m. and they proceed to talk for 11 minutes.
Why are they talking so late?
And again, we're all going to have different opinions on this, and it's okay if we disagree with us that this is anything significant. But we do think it's interesting that it appears that while he's on the phone talking to the officer on his work cell, she's sitting there obviously quiet, if you hear the call, on his personal cell listening to him ask questions about his missing family. I think it's also worth mentioning that the special agent asks her if she's ever been in Shanann's car. And Nichol will not call it Shanann's car. She calls it the white car or Chris's white car. And then, which is also just catches my attention. But he asks her if she's ever been in it, and she says yes. And it's very hard to hear because she mumbles it. But he follows up with, well, do you remember when or what the circumstances are? And she says, nope, she can't remember. She knows she's been in it at least once, but doesn't remember when or where they went. As the interview continues, some of it's muffled out because of the wind and the terrible audio. But as it continues, she does say that, she's scared for what happened to Shanann and the girls. She says that she knows that Shanann was a really good mom and that Chris said she was a really good mom. They ask her what their plans are for the future. And she says that all couples make plans for the future, but it wasn't anything definitive. Around 25 minutes into the interview, this is her first huge lie. It's when agents ask her if she's been to the house, and she says only once, and that it was the second week of July. So she's referring to the July 14th visit. They even ask her, so you've only been there once? And she says yes. And then she goes on to say that she didn't want to be there at all because that is, Chris and Shanann's space. She doesn't use her name though. It's her throughout the whole thing. And then she says that she wanted to be at her house because that was our space. And then she even says that she went and saw pictures of Shanann and the girls when she was there, and that she even said to him, maybe you should work on these things with your wife because you have this beautiful wife and these beautiful kids. One thing I thought was interesting too is listening to these after all of the new stuff that's out with the second confession and the book, and then more things that have come out. One thing that I wouldn't have noticed before, but I notice now, is all these little things that she says that can't be true with what we know about Chris, and it makes you wonder why she's lying. There's more examples
why
in
she
the
got
second
away with
interview
it.
that we'll do in the second video. But in this particular interview, one great example of that is when they asked, what do you think about this? And she says, I've never seen a violent side or anything like that. I'm paraphrasing. And which that fits obviously with what we know. But then it goes into her saying, because he's so happy when he talks, and she does that pushed emotion. And she gives him a lot of emotional attributes that we know he doesn't have, even from his friends, family, closest family, in-laws. He doesn't show emotions. In our opinion, both of them seem to have emotions that are just off. Towards the end of the first interview, they ask her what he told her happened that morning. This is where she recounts Chris's strange story about how he went to wake Shanann up, and Shanann then told him that the baby she was carrying was not his.
Yeah, okay.
Agents ask NK if Chris had any reason to think that, and she seems to quickly jump onto that idea, saying, well, I mean, she was home all day, so it just seems like another swipe at Shanann. So just a couple last interesting things at the very end here. Investigators circle back again and ask her if she deleted her phone, and she confirms that she did on the 14th. They then ask her if it becomes necessary, would she give them her phone? And this is her response. This is a quote. I'm sure we could work on my phone records, but I use this phone for work, so I would appreciate it if there's any way I could, keep this. Is there another way you can do that? One of the investigators tells her they have special software to retrieve her deleted messages, to which she sounds surprised and just responds with, oh, okay. They ask NK if she and Chris spoke on both phones and ask for both of his numbers. And this part is really sketchy because she kind of stumbles around and she pretends not to know how to find his contacts, which is just really strange. And the way she's saying it, she's kind of sounding like an airhead, and she just can't figure out how to find contacts in her phone. And it's a little bit of an awkward moment, and she finally just tells them that she's sure that the investigators can find it out for themselves. When agents ask her if she and Chris had a favorite spot, she goes on this tangent about how she picked every single place they went, and pretty much Chris was happy as long as she was there. She also tells them that it must be really hard for him to not be able to talk to her right now. One other thing at the very end that caught my attention is the agents kind of say, well, we were in such a rush that we forgot to catch your full name. And, if they said that to me under the circumstances, I'd just be like, oh, yeah, no problem. My name is, give them the information. But she stops, and her exact response is, wow. It's just strange. And you listen to the agent kind of explain himself to her, like, oh, well, sorry. As soon as we heard from you, we rushed down here. It's just kind of ridiculous. It's hard to give an unbiased recounting of this interview because bottom line, she's not forthcoming, cooperative, and seems to be missing or not caring about the magnitude of what's actually happening.
Exactly.
Here's a quick timeline of leading up to and after the murders.
All the Google searches that she did. Look at all that evidence that is sitting there right in front of our faces. And the people that were law enforcement and detectives that could have told and used all this in a trial. Oh, it just makes you so mad. Deletes the phone, gets a new one. interviews with the investigators. Like she deleted her whole phone and got a new phone. Do people hate Amber Fry? Do Amber at Fry book deal? Like,
thank you so much for coming out here with me.
Don't giggle. Don't giggle.
I'm having a wonderful time.
Don't giggle.
You mean a lot to me, and I'm glad that you're having a blast. I am so out of breath.
Feel the giggles coming.
Hi.
Oh, good gosh.
I guess just call me back when you have a chance. Bye.
Oh gosh, the infamous crazy crackle. Alrighty, with enough of that, with the giggling, what is your guys' partake on it? Do you see all the evidence? It's there. What she Googled is explicitly telling them, look, I'm guilty. I caused this. I did something. I need to tell you, but okay, I'm not going to tell you. That's pretty much what she's doing. And she's like, haha, I'm not going to tell you, and I'll never tell you, and that's why this case continues to baffle people and why it brings them to uttermost investigations, because it's so deep and we know that she was involved. So again, thank you guys for watching. Please take care. Be safe. Don't forget to hit the like, comment, share, all the above buttons. Go over to Unmasked True Hero as well. Give her as the love as well. And we'll see you guys in the next one. So again, please take care. Be safe. And as always, keep nerding on. And we'll see you guys in the next one.